Broadcast.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. We're live. We are live.
Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Robert Fedoruk and Hugh Nolan from Whitespace Studios. And we're really happy to join you today to talk about Upgrade Assistant. And so Upgrade Assistant has been made available not because ServiceNow needs a whole lot of help with upgrades. Upgrades on ServiceNow are generally really, really smooth, but there's still some aspects of it that require labor. So you can think of this as, you know, ServiceNow has taken most of the work out of upgrades for you, and this gets you the rest of the way faster. So I just want to put this in context of where ServiceNow is when it comes to upgrading its own platform. And we think it's a pretty glorious platform just for the fact that its upgrades are awesome. For those of you who joined early on in ServiceNow's life, you may remember that the cost of doing a complete replacement with ServiceNow was frequently much lower than the cost of upgrading the incumbent solution. So, you know, some of these old systems I saw, it was millions of dollars across, you know, a good number of months just to go from version X to Y. The other thing about ServiceNow upgrades is that they're free, so they're not charging you for the active upgrading, unlike some of their previous competitors. For the most part, it's push button. So the instant you decide, I want to go to, you know, from Jakarta to Kingston or from one version to another, it's as simple as making a request on Hi. You don't have to bring in a team of consultants to do a whole bunch of stuff for you. You don't have to put any CDs into a computer. And at two releases a year, ServiceNow has effectively put out 20 major releases in 10 years. And I've been on the system for that long, and I can vouch for the fact that, you know, prior to ServiceNow, everybody had a horror story about their last Remedy upgrade or their last Heat upgrade or their last Lotus Notes upgrade. It was just everybody had a horror story. It was the way life was. But in the 10 years I've been doing this and all the customers I've seen, you know, just very, very, very few stories about upgrades that went sideways. As a matter of fact, the only experience I've had with a sideways upgrade is because I didn't use the features that ServiceNow gave to analyze the difference between one version and another. And so that brings us to the part that still contains work, okay? And that's skipped updates. Whenever you run an update on ServiceNow from version X to version Y, or to another patch level on an existing version, ServiceNow will detect potential collisions and skip those updates. So those of you who have dug deep in the platform trying to get really thorough, compliant upgrades have already been familiar with this screen where we see the changes skipped. Now, this always happens. If you take a bare naked, never been touched ServiceNow instance and you upgrade it, there will be skipped updates in there. You know, not many, but a few. For those of you who have been on for a few months, a few years, this will go into the hundreds. For those of you who have been on maybe longer than that, or perhaps have taken advantage of the platform and built all kinds of stuff on top of it, this could get into the thousands. So to kind of put a number on the scale here, think about all the things you do to build in ServiceNow, whether you're building on top of something pre-existing like the incident or change modules, configuration management, or if you're building your own apps. Think about all the things that you can do, right? So let's list them out. Business rules, script includes, columns, form sections, UI policies, UI actions, client scripts, list layouts. There's a few dozen, right? Actually, there's a little bit more than that. There's about 600 things on ServiceNow that will create update records, okay? And these are the things that ServiceNow will try and detect collisions with. So, you know, on our best day, we can't even list out all the potential ways these things can conflict. Okay, so it's not good enough for us to just trust that this is all going to go smooth. We want to see if there has been any collisions, and with 600 potential areas of collision, it behooves us to at least know where those are. And again, if we go back, you know, this could be in the thousands. The skipped updates can literally be in the thousands of records. Okay, so at this point, you might be saying, so what? Like, so what if there's a collision? How does that affect me? Or is it really that bad? You know, a lot of people might legitimately say, you know, ServiceNow has been really awesome. I've gone 5 versions and I haven't had a single hiccup. And so did I really need to see those skipped updates? Did I really need to reconcile them? And if you've had a good experience, then, you know, maybe you didn't need to, but consider the following questions. Are you missing out on any new functionality? Did they add something to an interface somewhere that now you can't use because it's trapped in a skipped update? Or a little bit worse than that, are you actually preventing something that you actually want? So way back in the day, I customized something I shouldn't have, which was a cart UI, and ServiceNow upgraded its cart UI, and I prevented the new features from happening. You may want to take this time to also ask yourself, should I have customized something that way? Right? So maybe something needful in the moment, and you decided expedience is better than maybe exquisite architecture. So maybe you went ahead and customized something that you really shouldn't have just to get the job done. And you won't know if that's a problem or not going forward unless you see these skipped updates. Okay? We've all been here. Either we've inherited systems or we've grown by leaps and bounds as ServiceNow developers. But you kind of got to ask yourself, like, how good a developer was I 2 years ago on this instance? How good was my developer that somebody hired 2 years ago to do stuff, 1 year ago to do stuff? Is the past development of such impeccable quality that it's going to avoid any possible collisions with ServiceNow, right? So you may want to go back and see if somebody wanted to add a new function to a library, and they basically modified an out-of-box script include or modified an out-of-box business rule. Should they have done that? There's no way of knowing unless you detect those skipped updates. And then lastly, and I think perhaps more importantly, is how would your governance, in whatever form that takes, how would the governance of your ServiceNow instance feel if you said, I pushed this update to production, even though there was hundreds of skipped updates that were simply too laborious to check each one? And your governance board is likely not going to like that answer. So if only for compliance purposes, we should be reconciling these skipped updates. We should have an answer for why they exist and what we're doing about them. Okay, so now we all agree that the mountain has to be moved, right? We have a lot of these skipped updates records. Most of them could be benign, but we still got to reconcile them. And how do we do that today? One shovel at a time. So we're going to demonstrate kind of how people do this the current way. And for those of you at home, feel free to start counting the clicks. And this is really where the workload of doing a thorough and compliant upgrade takes place. I'm just going to put my screen up here, and I'm going to adjust my share settings. If you just give me one moment. All right, somebody's fact check me here. Am I looking at my my upgrade history form?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so I've run an upgrade, and that's going to appear in my system diagnostics upgrade history section. Okay, and it does everything from minor patches to full on. You know, this is Jakarta to Kingston. So if I click this. Open record because I'm on list V3. This is describing, I went from Jakarta to Kingston, and I have 9 skipped updates. And this is on a bare naked, never been customized, fresh personal dev instance. Okay. And so I still have these 9 skip changes. You on your subprod instances will have substantially more. Again, hundreds, maybe thousands. So the only information it really gives us is there's these things are skipped, and it prioritizes them in ways that we don't necessarily have any insight to, and it tells us vaguely what was skipped. So we're just going to take this priority 2 one. That seems like it might be pretty important, like what happened there. So I'm going to click on that. How many clicks are we at? 2? Oh, it's list v3. We're at 3 clicks. Wait a couple seconds for a form load. Okay, so now we're at the upgrade detail. This is the record that should be telling us like what was skipped and why. So what does it tell us? That it was skipped, that it was a business rule, and what else? Nothing. Okay, so I don't know anything about the business rule based off of this information. So I'm going to click this show related records. What are we at? 4, 5? Okay, so now I'm looking at the business rule. This is the thing that the collision is on. Looks like a pretty, the incident insert business rule. I'm just eyeballing this. I can see there's versions. Okay, that's great. What changed? Well, I could interrogate my versions, right? More clicks. I can interrogate that XML if I'm good enough at reading XML, which I'm not. So I'm going to go back. 7, 8, 9. Oh, I went back too far. Okay. 10, 11. I'm back on the upgrade details. And I said, I didn't know enough by just looking at the business rule to find out where the source of the collision might be. So let's just go to the resolve conflicts button. I click the resolve conflicts button. I wait. The form renders. I eyeball this. And I see, oh, this has one more line in the script than this one. But if this was a 20-line long script and the change was on line 18, I'd still have other clicks. I'd have to expand this. Wait for it to come up. Okay, now I see what's different. And I have a GS log statement in this business rule. Now, this is where you've got to use you got to have a human intervention to say, do I want it this way or do I want it the old way? And once you've made that decision, like if you want it the old way, you would have clicked revert to base system, or you would have saved and merged. Merging will allow you to basically say, I want this and this. I can take parts of the 2 different records that I want and merge them into one record. Okay, so that was great. I mean, I was clearly shown the out-of-box business rule was changed a certain way, and that might have been a bad idea. So I'm going to revert it to base system. Actually, I'm just going to save and merge for right now. And great, that's one less thing to worry about. I only have to do that hundreds or possibly thousands of more times. So then what was the click count on that? I lost count. I stopped counting like 5 or 6. But clearly, this took us all, 4 or 5 minutes of time. Multiply that by the amount of records that you're going to see, and you can kind of understand why this is still a laborious but very necessary process. Let me go back to sharing my PowerPoint. Okay, am I back on PowerPoint? Can somebody verify for me real fast?
Yep.
Okay. So we can see it's still laborious, right? If you want to do it thoroughly and properly, and we can see by that example that there are things in there. Most of those hundreds could be benign, but there are things in there that should draw our attention as competent ServiceNow resources. Okay, so let's quantify that work a little bit, right? And figure out where all the sweat gets poured into. So we've seen ourselves with our own eyes. It's 4+ clicks to get to where I need to on that information, right? There's a minimum of 4 clicks for me to find out what is the difference between what the upgrade thinks it should do and what I have in place. Okay, we know that the interface isn't quite suited to scale because I could be dealing with hundreds or thousands of these, and I have a list view that's going to render, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 at a time. And I'm going to have to go through those click with my bare hands. Okay. The other thing that you may have caught was I did one record in that whole example, and I cannot do multiple records at once. So you may be in a case, say you've got collisions on your sys properties, and you're like, hey, listen, my sys properties are mine. I'm going to keep all of those. But you can't just say take all the sys properties ones and update them all to retain. You have to do them one at a time. And there's no real configurability. We're dealing with software here. Software is supposed to be where you automate reoccurring, well-defined tasks. So I should be able to say, if you see this, do that. But there is no native configurability in the skipped updates, right? And I just preface this with everything about the ServiceNow upgrade is awesome, and skipped updates is awesome. We should be using this so that we avoid collisions. It's just that it's still a lot of work. So this is where Upgrade Assistant comes in. This fills the gap between the work we have to perform today and that awesome utility of skipped updates that ServiceNow is giving us to make sure that everything is clean and compliant, right? And so I'm going to pass it over to Hugh in about 2 seconds here. But as Hugh shows you our app, I want you to kind of focus on these particular value statements, okay? So one thing he's going to show you is that Upgrade Assistant is going to analyze the data for you. It's not just about skipped updates. It's about wondering if the skipped, it's about classifying the skipped updates. So it's going to say these ones are more important than that one for the following reasons. It's also going to take all the relevant data and put it onto one record. So instead of clicking through to 4 or 5 different records, all of that record information from all of those records is going to be in one place, the Update Assistant log record. Upgrade Assistant will also propose actions, so we know, based off of our experience upgrading, that you'll frequently just want to retain any differences on, say, your sys properties. And so when we see a collision on a sys property, our proposed action is you retain yours. Now, this only matters because we allow action on multiple records. So you could say, take all these skipped updates, the 100 that have to do with sys properties, and say, nah, I want mine. I want to ignore the warnings, all right? And so the action can be taken against multiple. And we put this all into an intuitive, informative dashboard so you can take the records chunks at a time. You don't have to be parsing through a gigantic list view that's got thousands of records in it. And then lastly, because we pride ourselves on our knowledge, but there's lots of people out there smarter than us and have different experiences than us, and they might want to write their own rules for how to process skipped updates with the Upgrade Assistant. So there's a lot of configurability within Upgrade Assistants as well. So let's demo the new way. Everybody just strap in, and Hugh Nolan's going to take us for a ride.
Thanks very much, Robert. That was pretty amazing. I'll just flick my screen over.
I see it, Hugh.
Okay, we on there?
Yep.
Good to go. Okay, I'm Hugh Nolan. I work for Whitespace Studios. Been an ServiceNow developer for some 7 years on this platform. The demo I'm going to do is on my dev instance, and it's an Istanbul instance. But please excuse the colors. It's there so that I know when I'm on my dev instance, and probably not something you would choose normally. But anyway, we'll start off from the top here. This is the upgrade monitor screen. This is a screen that tells me what the last upgrade did, how many records were updated, how many were deleted, how many were inserted, and what we're concerned about today really is how many are skipped. Because I'm going to be talking about the Upgrade Assistant, but let's not lose sight of the end game. As Robert said, this is about ensuring the stability and functionality of the instance itself. You'll want to review and resolve these skip updates, and ideally you want to do it pretty quickly and with some confidence that you're approaching it in the right way. So as he showed, when you do it manually, there's a lot of clicks you've got to go through. You've got to hit the upgrade history. You've got to click into your update, and you've got to select your upgrades and your updates to deal with. So here we are with the 129 skipped updates. Some of the more some of you will notice there's only 123 on the list here. That's because the list is showing me what has not been resolved yet, has not been reviewed yet. So some of these have been tested previously and some of them have been reviewed. Oops, I'll just slide that over there. So as Robert showed, doing it manually, having to click into them means that you have to go and search for this information. What Upgrade Assistant brings is the information to you, and then the ability to view that information in multiple ways. This is the dashboard view, and this is the log view. As you can see, there's 129 records there, which are the number of skipped records. There's a record in this table, in the Upgrade Assistant log table, for every skipped upgrade details record. The type of information that you can see on it is the type of information that you had to go searching for previously, perhaps. The type in grey that you see at the top there, that's the information that's pulled from the upgrade details record. So that's system information there. The information below is information that we've collated and gathered from the system in order to make it available to you. So you can see which versions, which customer updates are available, information about the target. This target has been deleted as it happens, so there is no target in the system anymore. If I move on to a different one, a container record, maybe that one. This is one that has been dealt with. So you can see that it's got the target record there directly for you, information about the versions, information about the updates that are on the bottom of my screen, and the application file itself. So this is where it pulls all together, the information together in one record, which is a parallel record to the upgrade details. This is a passive and parallel and just non-invasive type application. This doesn't disrupt your system in any way at all. It doesn't have to be installed before you upgrade. It doesn't have to be installed during the upgrade. It can be installed afterwards. As long as there are skipped updates in the system and you want to review them, you can install this, run the analysis, which you need to do once per upgrade, and then it'll bring this information to you. The information in these logs, as I say, is a window really on the information in the system, and we can remove these, we can delete them without affecting anything underneath. It makes no changes to your system unless you choose to do so. And when you do choose to take some action, it applies it to the upgrade details, which is the same as you would have done previously. So that's the kind of information we collect. Hello, yes?
Hey, sorry. Wait, can you go back to that one record you were looking at?
Yeah, sure.
And is there a way for me from that record? So I know it shows me the target and what the upgrade wants. Is there a way to do a comparison like right there?
Oh, sure, yes. Maybe I should have clicked through on that just then. So this is all the information that we can see and directly access. We can go back to the upgrade details from there, but we can actually also review the differences just by hitting the thing, and that takes us to a screen which shows, I mean, the information held in this part of the screen, in this grey and sort of orange area here. This is actually the base system's old configuration and sort of comparison diff tool. So this is exactly what the system would normally spit out to you. The slight improvement that we've done is to filter out anything which is just noise. So things which are, who updated it, things like the update time, things like maybe the package or something like that. That's been filtered out, so it just shows you the information that's useful to you. If you click it, you can get more information. You can get the full information of the differences between them. So yeah, you can always reach the differences from the record. But if I go back to the dashboard, the other thing that and the benefit really of doing it this way is that is that we can select which types of update that we want to look at. So this information here is pulled from the update assistant log, but a lot of this information is also pulled through from the upgrade details. The priorities of the updates is set by system now, and it's just displayed here. The user who last updated the updated record is charted out here, and the date of the last update, the last meaningful update to the clashing record in the system is shown there, so you can approach it that way. As you can see, it's all broken down by tables, so you can click through and do specific tables if you want to, and we can click through like you can in ServiceNow and view these. But one of the benefits that we've got here is that once you've selected a set of records to work with, we can actually review the differences of multiple records on one screen, and we can flick through and see each one right there on the screen and decide. So there's 3 here. No differences apparent at all, but yet they've been selected as skipped updates. So if I click through and expand it a little bit, yeah, the updated on date was different, and the sys package has been detected as being different. This is actually an entry that's changed as you import into the system, because it keys on the name, so the sys package is often different. So these 3, well, there's no change there at all. So what we can do is select these 3, just flick back up to the top, and we say we want to retain those. Submit that, and those 3 are marked as retained now. Those have been, the actual upgrade details record in the background has been updated with this resolution status and with a comment to say what we've done, and that's been done that way. And using the dashboard and using the click through, we can work on all kinds of things. Like I know that this section here is showing us the records with fewer, with hardly any differences between them that we've detected. So these 4, and again, we can click through, show the 4 records. Yes, no differences. Right, select those. Let's retain those and get that. That takes it off the upgrade details, and it also this dashboard is actually a view into the not reviewed status of the updates. So as you fix things and as you sort of move through the system and deal with them, this will actually sort of tend towards 0. This will get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you'll see the progress that you're making. So these 3 sections that I've talked about here, those come directly from the underlying system. They're information that's pulled from existing records. The 2 at the top left and the top right, they're something that's added by Upgrade Assistant. What we have is a set of rules that we apply to every update after we've analyzed it. And the result of those rules, or the numbers that match those rules, is shown in this side here. So the rules that I'm showing here are the ones that come with the system, but they are completely configurable. And one of the other things that a rule does is apply a suggested action. So for example, 37 records there have been marked as review required because the system hasn't got a rule that at the moment that it has confidence in that will tell you what to do with that. These, however, it's pretty confident that things of this type, that you want to retain them. So if I click through on these, it's either saying that it should retain them because they're completely benign and it's something that you'd always want to keep. For example, your properties, as Robert said there. In fact, if I just flick just to the properties, we can see that we've chosen to sort of set certain properties. They're properties of our system and we want to keep them. there's very few things that we believe should be overridden in that list. So again, we can minimize the amount of information that we need to deal with by saying I want to retain all those, and those are marked as such. Other things. One of the things that this has highlighted to me as I've been working on this is that there are some records that I've no idea why the system marks them as skipped, because there isn't anything to clash with really in the system. I mean, there are no versions that are brought in by the upgrade. Nothing that's created by the upgrade. There is a file in the system already for that. So I don't know why that's chosen to do that. So Upgrade Assistant doesn't, can't tell you everything about the way that ServiceNow works, but it can at least highlight these things, and you can address them as you decide from there. And the other thing, if you do find a certain set of updates that need attention in a certain way, then you can write a rule for it, and then in future, of course, those updates could be categorized in a different way, and they could be grouped together. Things which are pretty much always benign and always going to be in the system are these list. Let me group these so I can just pull them onto one screen. Differences in lists, some of which are not differences as far as the comparison tool goes. As I say, this comparison tool is the out-of-the-box tool, so I'm just going by what it would return to you from the normal record. And in other cases, it does highlight some things. It shows you that the base list has been changed. We've added some fields, we've removed some fields, but the system is working as we want it. So the idea is that, these are things that we need to keep. So these are things which can be simply marked and kept. So if I just flick out of there and take you back to the dashboard. As I say, the rules are applied afterwards, and they can be used to categorize things and to make suggested actions. And we can act upon whole groups of actions or whole groups of priorities or whole groups of tables as we see fit. The rules themselves are just simple filter type rules, really. So here's a rule that says there was no significant differences. So it checks the diff status has succeeded, because in some cases it fails, but that's the internal code not returning any information. And then it's saying that if the difference count is 0, then it will categorize it as this, and it'll put this note on there. So that's the that's the kind of categorizations that we can do there. We've supplied a help page, so gives you a bit of introduction and describes the modules, the actions you can perform. That's something I didn't mention, is you can, the ones that we saw from that review page, those actions can also be performed from the standard list actions on the lists as well. I've given a description of the fields that are on the record to help put some context around these. A little bit about the rules and about the review differences page. And this is the update that we're currently working on. The Upgrade Assistant log will contain updates that will contain a parallel record for every skipped update in one selected upgrade. The one selected at the moment is this one, which is the latest one, of course. So hopefully you can see there that by working through this in batches, in groups, that we can quite simply review, accept, and move on in a much quicker fashion. Everything that you can do from the standard upgrade details page, the option to review, the option to revert to base system, and the option to merge are all available from the upgrade assistant log records as well. But of course, the option to merge is a manual option, and this has been resolved. So the options are not being offered to us there. But of course, yes, the option to merge can't be applied as a batch, because everyone does have to be manually worked on. You have to select the fields you want to move across and deal with it that way. But other than that, we can work on them.
Hey, Hugh, there's a couple questions coming in. Can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that's come up is if you delete the upgrade assistant logs, or if you get to 0, but then you reran the analysis, do all the records come back? Do all the assistant log records come back?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, as I was said at the beginning, the upgrade assistant log holds records which are like a consolidation of information held elsewhere in the system. So what it's showing you is a window on what is already in the base system. So we can remove the upgrade assistant logs, and that doesn't affect the base system at all. It doesn't affect the updates made to the alterations made to the upgrade details record, which holds the comments and the resolution. So there's 129 here. There's, well, yeah, I've decided to, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the suggested action.
So also, if let's say I dealt with like 500 skipped updates, and so I've zeroed my homepage out, so it has nothing on it. I've taken action on everything. But is there any way after the fact I can take a look at, well, it was 500 skipped updates, but now it's none, or at least all 500 of those have been reconciled? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I mean the upgrade assistant log will
Can you show them the two different dashboards is what I'm getting to.
Yeah, no, I realize. I mean, it does come with 2 copies of the dashboard. One which shows the resolved ones as they're sort of being worked on, and that getting lower. That will be helpful. But it does come with 2 dashboards. One which shows the information as it's being worked on, and as it's being worked on, things will reduce and get smaller, and fewer things will be apparent. And when you hit 0, it'll be empty. But then there's a view of the dashboard which is, this is how it was when before we'd run anything. It's just the same charts, but with the resolution status not acted upon. Yeah, so that's all there.
And what are the plans for the future of the tool?
Well, one of the additions that we're making right now, and will be available very shortly, is the ability to move the information that you've worked on between instances or between upgrades. So at the moment, if I was working on this instance, say this is my development instance, then when I mark these upgrades, these updates as worked upon, and when I mark them as commented and resolved, that information will be held in the upgrade details record against the upgrade in this instance. If I wanted to apply the same upgrade to my test environment and I ran the upgrade assistant there, those entries, of course, would not be marked as retained or worked on in any way. So what we're going to add is the ability to move the information about the retained updates between instances. Ideally, we're looking at doing that through the similar mechanism to the to retrieving updates and update sets, i.e. pulling them into the instance you're working on. But at the moment, what we've got working is just the ability to do a simple import with an import set. So we have a view. So we have a view of the upgrade log, which contains all the information that we're interested in, and an import set, which allows us to pull that information when we export it into another instance. So that's one thing that's imminent. Another thing that thought about but haven't really been brave enough to action yet is offering the ability to automatically take the action that the suggested action presents. So as I say, this tool is totally passive at the moment. It doesn't change your instance in any way until you click through and you take the action to say, I want to retain, or I want to revert, or whatever. What we're thinking might be possible is that if we can be sure that we can detect very safe type script updates, like the UI lists, which have no changes in them, and properties that have no changes in them, then we can offer the ability to immediately automate that. So as soon as you run the review, it will mark those and take them off your slate. But still thinking about that yet, and that would have to be hidden behind a property for somebody to actively turn that option on if they wanted it.
The last question about the future of the tool is because a couple of people have asked me already, hey, this saved my hide when I was upgrading from Jakarta to Kingston, made my life so much easier. But when I go to Kingston to London, am I basically doing it all over when I go to Kingston, London? So thanks for reducing my workload from 100 units to 1. But if I still gonna have to use that 1 unit of work on other upgrades.
I mean, there'll always be the ability to pull the retained information between instances will be available across versions, because it's the same underlying updates and the same underlying records that we're talking about. So that will be possible to do that. There'll always be some that you will have to manually review. There'll always be things which are specific to your instance, or things which you only you would know about and your admins would know about, and those will have to be worked through individually. But as far as instance and version differences go, this works across all at the moment. So I think I've touched upon most of the things I wanted to show there. I mean, is anything else that somebody wants to raise or bring up? Shall I hand back to you, Robert?
Yep, I'll take it back. So
please do.
Thanks so much, everybody, for your time. We really appreciate you guys coming to see our tool. A couple points. It's absolutely free. It's available on ServiceNow Share. So if you're a partner, we want you to use it. If you're a customer, we want you to use it. Go on Share, download it for free. And thank you for your patronage. If you've seen this and you like what we do, you like where we're thinking, you like that we have that business utility in mind when we develop products like this and give them to you for free, and you want a partner like that, please check us out at Whitespace Studio, the whitespace.io. And we look forward to talking to you. And again, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you all.